Back when I was a lad, I remember fondly being sat with old man Mipley, rolling away the long school nights in jest and excitement on the battlegrounds of our beloved Halo. The split-screen carnage, all I could fathom as I stumbled blurry-eyed into class the next day, dreaming dizzily of the stories we'd made and the memories we'd forged. However, nursery was a long time ago now, and I'm an adult with responsibilities and ambitions and low self-esteem. How then, dear viewer, am I supposed to jump on board this societal nostalgia wave we're all currently surfing, and snuggle into that cozy little bubble of sugar, spice, and all things denial? How about two games with visuals picking up a retro age that emphasize cooperative gameplay and that both have excellent soundtracks? Sign me up. Cruel, or as it's meant to be pronounced, Cruel, is an absolute gem of a game by Aussie lads Powerhoof that is genuinely one of the best things to tumble out of the big 1.7. All you need to watch is the trailer. If you're not sold on that, then you and I are two very different people. You see, the crux of this rapid descent into the dark. Sorry, I had something in my throat. It works much the same way as a 4-player Binding of Isaac, with dungeons to loot and creatures to shoot, but the twist this time going is that rather than the mind monsters of Edmund Macmillan being the thing that ends your 5-floor streak, it was you, Stephen, you smelly turd! You see, Cruel is a game about teamwork. God, I hate you when you play this game. It's a game about sportsmanship.
Oh, look, you are bad at game!
And above all else, it's about having fun.
You can get ranged weapons, Chrissy.
Yeah, if I could get to the shop, Matt, that would be a great thing.
If any of this gorgeous pixel art is hurting your eyes, then you're right. Oh god, it's a mess. Cruel doesn't care if it hurts your precious eyes. It doesn't matter if the combined effect of having 4 different characters spamming off low-res attacks turns the game into a melting pot of sound and color. Just get on it, it's fine. Doesn't even hurt, I swear. A Way Out, by comparison, comes to us courtesy of Daylight. Oh, jeez. I mean Dying Light. I mean Last Light. I mean Little Lamp Light. I mean Haze Light. Wasn't that an obscure joke for you? And published by EA. Starbreeze, publisher of previous title Tale of Two Sons, presumably deciding they wanted a little more Dead by out of their Light franchises. Now that I've exhausted that joke, if you can call it a joke, this rather unique co-op game can finally shine and see the light of day.
Boo!
I have to get in there right off the bat by saying I'm not quite sure how I feel about A Way Out, though I can guarantee that it's probably one of the most unique ways to toil away a weekend you'll have this year. See, it's a game I find personally hard to review as I played it with one of my childhood boys, and what the game essentially did was give us a framework for some major league bants having. If your friends aren't fun to play games with because they cheat or have a life or are secretly otters, then there's not a huge amount more than some quick time events and a tag team sim walker here. But couple yourself up with a partner in crime and you'll probably have a fantastic bloody time. When I first saw this game, I knew it was special. Sorry, the voice is just coming and going today. The backdrop of a rural prison in mid-century America sets the stage for a daring couple of convicts to blunder set piece after set piece on the path to freedom, with the emphasis being on it being a solely co-op experience. As stated, you need a good home slice to see you to the bitter end, so choose your companion wisely. And the funny thing is, I can't deny the insane amount of laughs my buddy and I got out of the campaign, and with a pace to rival a Mechanical Heart watching a saucy washing machine commercial. You'll barely have time to complain about the incredibly railroady experience. I'd probably lump them in with the dirty, not real games, like Firewatch and The Walking Dead, that have just enough interactivity to not be traditional walking simulators. But to be honest, both those are games I love, so that's not really damning at all.
But should you stumble weary through that deathless dungeon, deprived and deranged, you'll rot with your eyes still blinking.
Cruel is what happens when you take the competitiveness of speedrunners, the structure of Isaac, the music of Necrodancer, and the hypnotic violence of Hotline Miami, lock them in a fermenting tank, and then chug the outcome with your friends. Stick that on the box. An odd analogy, granted, but I've written this script 3 times now, and that is the best we're getting. Cruel is possibly the indiest game of them all. Hell, all it needs is a crafting system, and it will be the village bike of Greenlight. The controls are simple, and the rules are plain. 4 of you enter, 1 of you leaves. The lifeless hunt the living, bouncing hero ship back and forth until one of you dares assault the dreaded gate. So far, so saucy, but this is a co-op special, my little chickens, so companionship is the core of the fun here. By being so diametrically opposed, each side has a decidedly different vibe. A lone rock amidst a shattering storm, with the attrition of bickering waves wearing you thin. Basically just incentivize bullying. While I love the tension of standing weary in a particularly gankomatic room, there is this irreverent glee to just pouncing on the hero as they walk into the very next trap-filled chamber. And since you level up both as a hero and a spooky kabuki ghost, the game becomes a seesaw, the two sides leapfrogging each other for power. However, this analogy only works if the other child on this seesaw is instead a fat hippo, because the game is completely imbalanced. The controls are a little sluggish and too analog for super precise aiming, so ranged attacks are a toss of the dice, whereas some builds allow the hero to focus on AoE attacks that will wipe the stone slab floor with any plans you had to succeed, mister. By contrast, some of the monster units can literally spawn infinite undead legions and then just hightail it around the room with a blink ability, so enjoy your dreams of preserving humanity, you nerd, as the beasts have got other ideas. None of this really takes away from the game though, since A, you're always swapping between players, meaning the guy who's been ganking your sorry ass up the unlock tree will soon find himself the proverbial runt of the hero litter, and B, it's local co-op only, which means there is nothing to stop you timing a swift throat poke to the annoying player. I'm looking at you again, Stephen, I can see it in your eyes. So, does anyone else think A Way Out spoils its premise in the damn title? Come on guys, A Way Out, really? You might as well have called it Prison Break. Oh wait, our middle-aged heroes not Andy Dufresne in the VGA's, man.
Okay, can you swear here? Can you swear? Okay. Fuck the Oscars, you know?
And are put in jail for interconnected reasons surrounding a stand-in for Pablo Escobar, which forges the basis of an uneasy friendship. A friendship that, when I'm playing, becomes predominantly about who's better at bloody horseshoes. I told you it was me. They're empty enough ciphers that you can jump into them easily. The strength of their relationship will really come from whatever you can bring to the table. The litany of crazy set pieces is staggering, and I challenge anyone to play through the game without tiny crack of a smile. The game takes peaks and valleys in pacing to a logical extreme as events snowball into weirder and weirder escape sequences. But I think the game earns its bombast thanks to the moments of slow burn in between. The titular Way Out is perhaps a little reminiscent of certain other titles. Go on, Stephen. Point to the one who sniffed you. But spending a night climbing back to back up a drain shaft just to discover the roof is locked is a fun way to keep the objective prevalent whilst coming up with fun context to have the characters interact with the world. And let me tell you, the more they interact and the less they talk, the better, as the writing, well, it's there, but the clear star of the show is the split perspective. Hearing Leo mouth off where Vincent tries to negotiate isn't exactly Spec Ops when it comes to nuanced character contrast, but by God, it's something, and I dare say even quite charming at times. See, Jekyll and Hyde essentially comprise the good cop, bad cop approach, ironically. Either stealthy and safe, or loud and violent. You know those moments in games where they try and create divergent paths, you Doug or Carly's, your save or kill the councils, your upper floor, lower floor, your tell the cops or live a peaceful life. Yeah. Those. Most are just a spin on the existing mechanics, and some even creep dangerously close to David Cage's Shark Tank, but since these instances are so localized, they can afford to diverge a little bit, and since each encounter can be fronted by Cagney or Lacey, I mean, you've got to admire the workload. However, some choices are clearly a lot more entertaining than others. Whoever chose to land the plane rather than freefall parachute down is the same type of person that frowns when I put Baileys in my Cheerios. Stop crying, Mum. I'm just kidding, she doesn't care. Even the introduction gives the individual characters space to breathe and sets this idea up whilst also overlapping and mapping out the prison at the same time. They really do rinse this idea as well, as it is stretched and torn in every shape and form, from an amazing one-shot sequence in a hospital to a rural warthog run to a fun game of basketball with one of the characters' little nippers. It's truly impressive, especially given the amount of work it must have taken to voice every interaction. And having said that, the over-the-top moments are punctuated by some genuinely sweet little interludes that give you time to breathe. The mental prison escape sequence is built up too slowly. Even the actual breakout is staggered as you creep your way up through the back wall, up the drains and onto the roof. Oi. Get out of here. But if I had to be honest, despite all that absurdity, my favourite little chunk of the game was this adorable post-escape cooldown sequence where you get to go splashy, and you get to muck around in a house after some perfectly innocent kidnapping of the elderly. You get to play Guitar Hero on a banjo.
Slaughter your companions, drown them in the sweet whispers of the void.
All of this builds up to an assault on the gate, a level-capped portal to the boss fight where you must pit your wits against the majestic, towering, staggering elder gods, who are also your friends. Not that I want to go to your heads or anything. This is when the juicy bit of the game happens, because it gets really spiteful, as you literally crush your friends' chances of winning, and with a max count of only 3 assaults on the Netherland, you'll get mushed to the bottom of that score pile if you are the hero for that last run, as the insanely overpowered god characters absolutely deck you. Glorious. Weird little intermission here. Whilst recording footage for this script, I actually managed to conquer the 3-headed dragon thing. Annoyingly, I lost the footage. What? No, I did. No, honest, I beat it, I swear. As with the rest of the game, it's more like they threw some cool ideas at the screen and just kept what caramelized. The ranking going something like Gidrak, Kurok, then Tazikio, rather than Cthulhu, Hydra, and Why You Hitting Yourself, on a scale of shockingly easy to upsettingly unfair. I don't think during my stint in Crawl's Dungeons we've ever actually beaten the boss more than a few times, though I have found a pretty good strategy online that involves locking your friends in a cupboard and fighting a surprisingly inactive villain. The gate is just a tap-out point though, a moment on the ropes that decides how much
Deeper into the putrid raging cess of the dungeon you descend.
as games can go on seemingly forever. This trance you're lulled into, clearing wave after wave of these nightmare creatures, being genuinely quite captivating. This, of course, leads me to the soundtrack.
Hot diggity dog.
Alex Yoder, my sweet precious child, you have earned your seat in the Valhalla of indie game musicians. Stand aside, Danny Barrow, Danny. Shuffle over, Ben Prunty, these names. You can take the hospital and Engie and boogie back to Ragnarok, you pair of devils. I mean, just listen to this. If you thought me melting over Mick Gordon in the Prey video was bad, then honey, this funky stuff is on my goddamn show reel. I don't think there's a weak beat on the track. Abyss, Darkness, Toccata, Curses, the titular Cruel main theme. It's like having an arcade cabinet jacked into your ears and being super juiced with the beloved Master Dog. The game, in its entirety, is a diamond in the rough. Hell, on Greenlight, it's so rough, it's basically the Star of Bloody India, but the music on top is this thick pixely icing that just completes this delicious dungeon crawling cake. Ooh, tastes like sponge. I would say that A Way Out suffers more than Andy Dufresne in the narrative department. Hold on a second there, Morgan. You know what time it is. It's spoiler o'clock. Put on your helmets, eat your cornflakes. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Sorry, I'm very lonely. It suffers from leaning on the narrative rather than just letting its characters have fun and do their thing, ending on a plot twist that comes straight out of Cookie Town. To me, a good twist is one that is hinted at but misdirected, something that is established as possible but that has its attention drawn away from. Being the housebound social reject that I am, I've gotten pretty good at noticing these tells and have a decent nose for a twist ending on the horizon. Look, we're thinking the same thing here, but I can't reference it 3 times in a row. I will just look desperate. So imagine my surprise when the twist I thought was coming turned out to be true and still make no sense. You see that fella with the beautiful goatee? That was me, first time through, young, starry-eyed, vengeful for some contrived plot reason.
So it turns out, and don't tell anyone I told you this, but I'm an undercover cop.
What a twist! I scribbled on myself. So, when the plot escalates to, and I wish I was making this up, a 2-man siege on a tropical mansion in South America that begins with a casual session of skydiving into enemy territory and ends with us hightailing it at high speeds on bike back to a moving plane, you might be wondering why this government-sanctioned mission is happening. Seriously, that makes no sense at all.
Why did you do this?
The overarching plot is nothing amazing. It's a goofy, campy 80s movie, badly written, but at least sincere and a great foundation for some co-op conundrums, and I'm glad that my clairvoyance came true in the form of us turning on each other at the end. But guys, what is this mess, Splinter Cell? It also doesn't help that this aforementioned final section relies on really clunky gameplay and shooting that would have been out of place in the 7th generation, making this explosive finale a clunky mess. At its heights, A Way Out combines the best elements of a David Cage game with the accessibility and creativity of a buddy cop movie.
Why did you come under?
I'm an undercover cop.
But
At its lowest, the game has to rely on the goodwill it's built up before. Granted that there is a lot of it. If you've ever even dabbled in the Unreal Engine, you should. It comes free with Fortnite, kids. Then you'll know how impressive the sheer spectrum of activities they provided is, and the pacing would give Forrest Gump a run for his money. It's just a hell of a lot of fun. I do find it funny that Crawl is based on killing your beloved friends when you wish they'd help you, whereas A Way Out is fixated on co-op until you have to savage each other. That's a weird, funky kind of poetry, don't you think? Crawl, blimey, I am stuffed on criticism biscuits. I've just gobbled them up. There's none left on the table. So let's make like literally every game reviewer ever and give them a score. Hell, we could even put them head to head. I'll dish out bonus points for maximum snowflakiness.
Gameplay!
Fast-paced retina-scarring, disco death-dealing dungeon crawling with stiff controls and imbalanced mechanics that I just happen to love, with a unique spin on player versus mob mentality, making it the player versus Steven's stupid face. A slower, more evenly paced story game with a Telltale-esque style that emphasizes interactivity with the environment over expressive player mechanics that, despite their linearity, come and go fast enough for the gold to shine and the chaff to pass. Shawshank Simulator takes it 2018. Shawshank Simulator 2018 takes it. God, that is hard to say.
Graphics!
Everything on screen is a perfectly drawn piece of pixel art, animated expressively and with enough visual flair to make a bloody blur of guts and spell cards somewhat readable. The character design, despite the limitation, is sexy AF, with kudos going to the lighting effects. A more traditional 3D Unreal Engine game with some nice lighting and setting, but nothing that'll blow your eyeballs out. Sad to say, but despite the insane amount of assets that must have been produced for the game, the settings are a tad too dull to really bring the set dressing into their own. Oh, Titanfall 2, why have you ruined level design for me?
Sound noises!
Ever wanted a SNES to bludgeon you to death? That's cruel. Ever wanted Super Meat Boy quality music as ambience to a mass grave? Oh damn, that's hot. Do it. Also, I quite like the narrator's voice. It gives me the heebie-jeebie-weebies, if you couldn't tell. Again, it's more of a generic Foley type situation with some passable voice acting and a few nice tracks. Trust me, I love country. I was a sucker for this crap. That would have been noteworthy if this weren't the same year that we hoed down with Far Cry 5's beautiful rural acoustic. Take me home, country road, Cruel gets the point.
Funness!
It's super fun, but it can get annoying being killed and revived constantly, and it's really easy to loop someone in the same room. The boss fights are insanely tough, but bonus point, you can play this game. All of your sins are forgiven. There's a bit in a boat, and a bit in a car, and a bit in a fuel station, and a bit on a construction site, and oh my god, there's so much to do. Get in, A Way Out. Wait, what? Get what? Yep.
Sex Factor!
I mean, obviously. Hang on a minute, they're both straight white men in monogamous committed relationships. Can someone get me some chocolate ice cream, because I'm sick of this vanilla?
Loot crates!
They both have none, and that rhymes with fun.
Synergy!
How can I kill my friends the best? Pass me that goddamn shiv so I can smuggle it right up my arse.
Innovation!
I press the buttons and the things happen. I also can do this. Do you think he thinks he's clever for mocking game reviewers? I can't pick one over the other. Don't be daft. But my personal pick of the two has to be Cruel. The style, the sound, the gameplay has made it a staple of our gaming parties and a tumor ball of fun lodged in my brain. I've said before that music can transcend a scene into something great, and half of my love of Cruel comes from this banging OST, so you know, maybe I'm just fickle. A Way Out is more expensive, though still fantastically cheap, and not as replayable, but it's the best independent AAA game since Hellblade. Oh look, games industry, a modestly funded game with a strong creative vision that has received critical and commercial success? Nah, it can't be successful. Where's the loot crates? So go on, give them a punt, treat yourself.
Find yourself lost in the abyss, your mind slowly melding as spiny fingers of insanity grope your brain. Your sword blunting as you swing and carve and crawl your way through death, dying time after time with the creeping truth that you'll never know sunlight again.
It's good to be back. Hey there, you. Thanks for staying all the way to the end. There's a little treat coming up just for you. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you to a couple people. Crystal Falls, maybe Chrissy, linked in the description for helping me get some footage, as well as being part of the crawl segments. And my mate James, who hasn't got a YouTube channel, but is just a sexy boy. I also want to say a big thank you to you for waiting this long. I know it's been a while since the last one. It takes ages to make these, and I'm at university most of the time, so I don't have the time to make them. I want to make them more regularly. We'll see how it goes. Either way, I really appreciate it. I've also linked both the games in the description. It's like 30 quid to get them both. They're excellent, and you really will have a fantastic time. Away I don't think that was spoken English. I think I went Scottish for a minute then. Away out. I can't say this line.